If you were 2-7, you'd be in a bad mood too.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
Get your mouth shut. Get your mouth shut. Jerk.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
If worms had machine guns, then birds wouldn't be scared of them.
Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Welcome to a Wordhole Media presentation of the Limp Ditkas podcast. I'm Pete.
I'm Ryan. Welcome to the Limp Ditkas podcast at limpditkas.com. We're just a couple of Chicago pricks united by our mutual hatred of the Chicago Bears and University of Michigan football. We are, unfortunately, I'm a Lions fan. Pete's a Cowboys fan. I'm a Michigan State fan, and Pete is a Notre Dame fan. So we'll be talking about all that, everything that happened last weekend. I think we can go ahead and jump into the news, which would be Monday Night Football, the embarrassing display once again for my Detroit Lions. My theory in last week's episode was that possibly my only hope was that Aaron Rodgers was going to use the platform, the national platform of Monday Night Football versus the Lions to have an embarrassing loss, to sabotage the Packers and force the hand of management to trade him or cut him or get him the fuck out of Green Bay somehow. Unfortunately, that theory did not come to fruition. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is the Hall of Famer. He is, and showed that quite well in the second half, especially in the third quarter. Ugly second half. The Lions looked as we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. The best thing, a series of text messages going back between all my friends, unfortunate other Lions fans. Canopix sent the text. The best thing about the game was that we didn't have to see Matt Patricia on the sideline with the goddamn pencil in his ear, just looking obese and disgusting and just annoying as fuck. So
why are you fat shaming Patricia, dude? Jeez.
Actually, he's a dickhole shaming, so I don't know if that falls into categories. Glad he's not there. So that was a positive. Lions lost 35-17. They did not trail in the first half, though.
It was quite winnable until the second half.
Yeah. Well, and I've got some turning points in that you could point at, but
there's a great Wannstedt quote for this moment.
Oh, what's that?
If we didn't play that second half of football, we would have won this game. Dave
Wannstedt. Wise sayings. If it wasn't for those 2 or 3 or 4 plays, we would have had them. Yeah. The first half looked decent. The offensive line again looks like it can be legit. The running game was they were moving the ball. Some positives. I thought Jared Goff looked like a serviceable middle of the road quarterback, not a disaster. They were moving the ball kind of rather well. TJ Hawkinson is a star. I mean, hit another touchdown. He's a Pro Bowl candidate every year now. Even though I wasn't a big fan of drafting him number 7 overall, whatever year that was. So, but he's a legit talent. The wheels started coming off at the end of the first half with some poor clock management by Coach Dan Campbell, or as I like to call him, Man Campbell. There's about less than 2 minutes left. The Lions had the ball at their own 41 and started moving it immediately with the tie game, chance to come down, score a touchdown before the half. Really put their foot on the neck of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, who looked really fucking shaky, I thought, most of that first half. And the Lions fuck around midfield. They have all 3 timeouts. They don't call a timeout. They run about 40 seconds off the clock, huddling up between plays. It's like they're almost trying to run the clock out so they can just get a field goal. They had been moving the ball quite effectively, especially on the ground. If they want to even run the ball, why are they huddling? Wasting time that way. it was strange. I think they were worried about scoring too fast and giving the ball back to Aaron Rodgers, which is ludicrous. So that's one point. It's not the worst thing. They did get the field goal at the half, but I felt like they settled for that. They
Right.
were more aggressive. I just didn't like the running of the clock, the huddling up, and just not being more aggressive with their timeouts, especially since Green Bay had the ball coming out of the half, start second half, where they, of course, went right down the field and took the lead and never looked back. And that was unfortunate. Another part of that third quarter that was a debacle was the Lions actually drove back on their first possession of the third quarter and were in position to score again. And they went for it on a 4th and 1 in Green Bay territory, which I love. Dan Campbell's been pretty consistent with his aggressive play calling and going for it on 4th down. I think he's done it 3 or 4 times this year already. And the math actually, like the analytics say, it is the smart thing to do. And it's just never been done in pro football. Coaches talk about being tough, and they are the biggest pussies on the planet most of the time. They don't make bold calls like that. I think it's 65% of the time NFL teams make 4th and 1. So the math is on your side. So great. Go for it. The problem was the Lions' offensive line is their strength, and their running game had been their strength. They call a passing plan 4th and 1 and had no
chicory.
Yeah, it's just like, why do you go away from your strengths? Green Bay had not shown an ability to stop the Lions' run consistently. Certainly not for 1 yard. It's like, if you're going to be a tough guy and go for it, why don't you use your strengths and push them over? And it was just a bad call. So I've got some issues with Dan Campbell, but again, I mean, it's a little bit nitpicky. I think there were critical errors on his part, but it kind of doesn't matter when your defense is that horrific. The lack of talent, the lack of any kind of playmakers in the secondary just exposed itself tremendously in that third quarter. And Aaron Rodgers, of course, took full advantage, converting multiple 3rd downs, 3rd and longs, and just the Lions had no hope if he had any time throwing the ball. He was going to pick them apart. So pretty disheartening Lions loss. I guess I should have been ready for it. I don't know, going into Green Bay, you can't expect to have a chance. And, with this team that is so depleted and completely on the ground floor of a rebuild, couldn't expect much. But that first half kind of pulled me in again, thinking they might have a shot, because they look like they could play with the Packers. I think the main takeaway is the Packers are not good. I mean, obviously last week they got blown out by New Orleans, but they look terrible in the first half. I thought, just to have the Lions be able to play with them that long, and really I felt like the Lions gave them that game. I'm not sure that the Packers really took that game from them. So I think the NFC North is going to be wide open with a bunch of mediocre fucking teams. So a little disheartening there. What else do I have for that? Hold.
Don't give your quarterback a wet football.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Goff and the size of his hands.
I mean,
he might have some small hands over there. He struggled dropping the ball.
The drop ball play
exchanges.
The drop ball on the drop back looked like he knocked it out of his own hand when he went to like tap the ball before he threw it, like a motion he normally does, and then like the mismanaged snap. I mean, when it just started raining, it wasn't like a downpour, but it was starting to get it wet. But you could see those were like 2 key plays in basically what led to. Didn't they score 21 or 14 of those 21 points were off of turnovers?
I believe so. Yeah.
So like, you erase those little mistakes. I'm not saying the game would have turned out differently, but maybe it would have.
Yeah, I mean, we could point out all those 2 turnovers, getting a touchdown at the end of the first half instead of settling for a field goal.
Right.
If they had converted that 4th and 1, there's 4 plays right there. There's Dave Wanstash's 4 plays. Well, if they didn't have those 4 plays, we would have won this game. So that's what it comes down to. For the Lions looking forward, Next week they have the Baltimore Ravens, so things are looking
that
even tougher. And
looks good.
considering Baltimore's Sunday Night Football performance and Lamar Jackson's performance, I think the Lions have little hope. It does give hope for my Super Bowl prediction that I had the Ravens go to the Super Bowl and Lamar Jackson winning the MVP after week 1. I was a little shaken on those predictions, but week 2 against the Chiefs, that was an incredible game, by the way. Did you watch Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, I sure did. 2 in a
fun.
row. Two good ones to open the season.
He also catapulted my fantasy team to the highest score of the weekend, 200 plus points.
I thought you already declared your fantasy team done. I'm so confused.
I changed my fantasy team name to the Surrender Cobras, but that was in a reverse jinx effect, as now they've come to life.
Okay.
So it's working out perfectly. But
I'm 2-0. So
congratulations. Nice. The Inglorious Bastards. You need a logo. I got to work on a logo for you for that.
I don't want to offend anyone in our family-friendly league.
Well, what do you got for your NFL thoughts this weekend?
Well, I mean, maybe just stick with the before I get into the 1-1 Cowboys, stick with in the North for a second, and the Bears, despite terrible coaching again this week, squeaked out a 20-17 victory over the Bengals, where the Bears defense looked like what the Bears are about. The Bears defense, that's what keeps them in the game. And they did, but their coach really wanted to give the game away. And the moment I cite is in the minute of like 3 minutes, similar to the Lions in week 1, just piling on points in a short amount of time. The Bears, instead of playing field position with a defense that's held a Cincinnati team that's got some pretty decent offensive weapons on it to 10 points, they, with a rookie quarterback who did not look very good, having to fill in for the Red Rifle because he bruised his knee. That's the word on the street. He bruised his knee running.
It's a bone bruise.
Bruise, yes. When the knee rubs against the knee.
Well, I think it's the tibia and the fibula or whatever, they bounce together somehow.
Yeah, somehow, right. So the Bears have not officially said what it is. And the Bears have not announced their starter for week 1. And when Nagy was asked, or week 3, sorry, did I say week 1? Sorry. Week 3, when Nagy was asked who your starter is by Brad Biggs, he said, that is a smoke question, Brad, and I'm not going to answer it. And I don't understand how asking the head coach who your starter is for week 3 is a smoke question.
He said it was a scheme like a question about schemes, so he wasn't going to answer that. But Brad Biggs' point was like, this is a personnel question, not a scheme question. So it was confusing. Another word salad answer by Matt Nagy. He didn't want to answer it. The weirdest thing is that they
answered it a half hour later.
Yeah, they had a PR department personnel person come out to announce that the Rifle Andy Dalton will be their starter once he's healthy. So it's just a strange exchange. By the way, Brad Biggs, that's like the most typical NFL reporter you could possibly. I'm Brad Biggs
for Chicago too.
Yeah, it's perfect. Does he have a mustache? I've never seen him. I'm assuming he has a mustache.
Yeah, he's got I think he's got a goatee.
Oh, the goatee, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Chicago classic. But quickly back to more negative Nagy news. So they've got a 3rd and 7. There's like 3 minutes to go in the game. Justin Fields has looked like shit, kind of. I mean, he's a rookie, whatever. He's obviously having trouble reading defenses. You can run the ball and make Cincinnati use more timeouts and punt it away, turn it over to your defense who's been play field position. Because as a head coach, your job, as any head coach's job is to put your team in the best position to win. And that put the Bears in the best position to win. But no, he doesn't do that. He decides Justin Fields is going to suddenly turn into a star quarterback and decides to pass the ball, which is intercepted. run back to the 7, leads to a touchdown.
Ouch.
Now you're down by 3. You're only up by 3 at that point. And they didn't lose. They held on, but like it's just like yet again, like how is this guy I don't understand how he's maintained his job. I don't understand.
The same way Ryan Pace is maintained.
Yeah, right. And I think they go together, right?
Yeah,
so
they absolutely do.
Ryan Pace can't fire Nagy because he looks like an ass then because that's his coach.
Yep.
And Nagy did the company line with Trubisky, even though he probably didn't even want him as a quarterback. So he essentially protected himself there, but like just bad gameplay. They very well be 0-2 right now and probably should be, but they're not. So
yeah, they're playing the Bengals, so that kind of bailed them out, I think.
Yeah, the Bengals aren't a bad team though. So like I didn't actually expect them to even really. I thought the Bengals would win that game pretty easily. But
wow. Well, what'd you think about your Dallas Cowboys?
Well, it got a little closer than I thought it was going to be. I said 10 points, a lock money line bet. It turned out to be my prediction was correct for the week. If you bet the money line, you won.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, if you took the spread, you won. So the Cowboys delivered in that aspect. For me, they ran for 198 yards, a complete contrast to the week prior. They got the running game going. The biggest news was Pollard rushed 13 times for 140 yards and a touchdown. Zeke rushed 16 times for 71 yards. And it's kind of like that dual threat where Pollard's the guy with like just unbelievable speed, right? So switching back and forth in the game with both of them, where Zeke's more of a I'm going to initiate contact guy. I can bounce off you and keep going. It's like that thunder and lightning type of backfield. And
I love that.
When you get that mix in there, it's going to create problems for defenses because, you got to adjust. You got to worry more about the outside for Pollard because once he gets out there, he can he ran past so many of the Chargers defenders on his way to 140 yards last weekend. It was nuts, like just to watch his like burst of speed. So, that was a good sign. Dak basically, I think he passed for like 238 or something. It was like a much different game, and they just kind of managed it while their defense buckled down, and it created a couple interceptions, 6 tackles for losses, a couple sacks. They look good. They could have won week 1. Basically, Greg Zuerlein, who was a bit of a goat in week 1, turned out to be the hero.
Greg the leg.
Yeah, 56-yarder for the win as the Cowboys. That's why they got him. They got him because the idea was if you're between 50 and 60 yards, you're going to get at least 3 points out of it, which is not that deep into someone else's territory. Yeah. So that if you can pile on point, when you can,
as long as his back is not wonky,
I guess whatever his new back was doing to him in week 1 has been remedied.
Nice.
So the Cowboys we get a Monday night Philly matchup this week. A Philadelphia team who I believe aren't they 2-0 now? Are they 2-0 now?
I haven't paid attention. Probably
they are. I think they're 2-0 now. So
division matchup. Angry division matchup. Should be interesting.
But it's at home, so the Cowboys are favored by 4 in that one. So should be interesting. My lock of the week is I go with the underdog Falcons over the Giants, the New York Football Giants at home.
This is PV's upset specials?
Yeah, my upset special. My lock of the week, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons at a plus 140 money line as of right now, +3 spread. Go either way. You're going to win money.
You heard
it here?
Why do you like the Falcons so much?
They're not a terrible football team. They're at home, and the Giants have looked like a really terrible football team so far this season. So I like the Falcons to take care of business.
Well, speaking of money line, did you hear about the guy that did a 16-team parlay this weekend with the money line? Just picked winners, and he was 15 out of 15 going into Monday Night Football last night. Do you hear anything about this?
No. Did he go with the Lions?
He had a $25 bet that would have paid out $737,000.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's when you add that many things that have to happen, it just goes up exponentially.
He was 15 for 15 going into last night's game and picked the goddamn Lions for some reason.
Wow.
In Green Bay, as they're a 12-point underdog. Went with the Lions and blew his $737,000 potential winnings. I mean, he only put $25 on this whole thing. So, but I just can't imagine being that guy, like being that close. I'm wondering if I think it was MGM is who he bet through. If they had offered him a buyout or something, like maybe like Monday morning, like if he could get out of it. I don't know if you only put $25 down, would you take that? Or what would you take, I guess would be the fun question to buy before the game started last night.
What's interesting in betting online is they do offer buyouts.
So it would just happen automatically. They wouldn't have to call him or anything.
Yeah, no, they probably did. When he was 15 for 15, they probably offered him like $400,000 or something.
400?
Yeah, or maybe like half of it or something, because he's already.
I would definitely take that. I would think they would offer him a lot less than that, hoping he would just cash in.
Well, I don't know. I never had a bet that high, but like when I've had a parlay and 3 of the 4 have come in, and it's like the fourth quarter, and like let's just say it's paying out $100, they'll be like, you can cash out now for 75.
Oh wow.
So
I mean, that's hypothetical. What your sensibilities, your financial situation, what would you cash out for instead of giving up?
I would have probably whatever they were offering at that point, because
that's what I'm saying. We got to come up with a dollar figure. Would you cash out for $5,000, $10,000? You've only invested $25 at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Potential to get $737,000, but for some reason you picked the Lions in Monday Night Football. But you obviously have confidence in that for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, and he may have done a bunch of. He probably picked the Lions because I think the Packers were like -220 or something. So he probably just wanted like just some insane amount. Like if it had the thing, I think for him
parlay.
But it still matters. So like if he adds the Packers to it, it probably maybe only was 500,000. But because the Lions were underdogs, it jumped it to 700,000. And I think for him too, like the bet was probably just like, if I win, I win. Although to me, I'll be honest, like I'm not like rolling the dough. So like $25 for me, that's like a $5 or $10 bet, you know?
So, but you won't answer my question. How much would you cash in for? If they offered you 5,000?
Probably. Yeah, I probably would, because
that's enough.
But yeah, because at the other end of it too is like, you're kind of thinking like, well, I just did this bet for whatever
shits and giggles, and
now I'm 15 out of 15. I'm just gonna let it ride.
Well, that's the debate. So I think I'd hold out for a hell of a lot more than 5,000. See what they would do. I think I'd go at least 50,000.
I mean, I'm sure the buyout. If it was offering a buyout like they do in FanDuel, it was at least 50,000, if not way more than that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm jaded by my lifetime of Lions disappointment, so I wouldn't have picked them for one thing. I guess if I had the Packers in the final leg of that 16 leg, I think I would have been a little more confident. But so I don't know. I just couldn't believe somebody. First of all, that somebody would do a 16-team parlay and be 15 out of 15, which is just amazing. But then to have the Lions at Green Bay. It made no sense to me. So just an amazing thing that probably a reason why I do not gamble and never will gamble, because that shit is just too crazy. I would have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't hear that. That's crazy.
We should do that. Maybe that's how I'll get into gambling. I'll just do 16 team parlays over and over again for $25. See how well I do.
Well, there's a lot of weeks left, so I'm gonna put you down for out about $400. So,
well, the only other thing I have with the NFL this weekend, of course, is my obsessive LA Rams watch. Like the jealous ex-boyfriend, I am watching Matt Stafford with his new girlfriend in the LA Rams.
Are you trolling him?
Yeah, not him. No, I just troll the Lions basically. But no, unfortunately, the fucking Colts had a lead in the fourth quarter and pissed it away and gave Matt Stafford yet another fourth quarter comeback. More accolades. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. The Lions just wasted his 11 years in the NFL so far. Just a frustrating experience, mainly because the Lions draft pick that they will be receiving from the Rams next year's draft from that trade just got a little bit worse, incrementally worse. I fear that it's going to get incrementally worse with every week as we go, and it's just going to make me sadder and sadder. As a Lions fan, it's hard to get sadder than we are, but somehow we find new ways. So that's all I've got for the NFL, unless you have anything else.
No, that's it.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break here on the Wordhole Media Network.
Wordhole Media.
Major League A-Holes in the Hole podcast, where baseball opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink. Find us at MajorLeagueAholes.com and anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Wordhole Media.
Well, the biggest story for this podcast, at least in the college realm over the weekend, was Michigan State heading down to Coral Gables in Florida to take on the Miami Hurricanes. I did not have a ton of confidence because I'm really not sure what this Michigan State team is. I'm starting to gain some confidence as they've now gone on the road 2 different times against Power 5 opponents and walked away with fairly easy victories. I did speculate that the Hurricanes are kind of living on their old reputation from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and they are not much of a program anymore. And I think that's kind of obvious after this game. They have a quarterback, they have a receiver, and that's about it. State won 38-17. It was kind of a close game. It was a 1-score game with 4 minutes to go, and State just unloaded on them. They took advantage of 4 takeaways. The running game, of course, was what we've seen so far, and I'll get into that in a bit. But really, Peyton Thorne is starting to emerge as a legit Big Ten quarterback. He was Big Ten co-player of the week with 4 touchdowns, 261 yards. Co-player of the week. Why can't the Big Ten pick one guy? What the fuck are we doing? I think it's like the Ohio State's running back was the other Big Ten player of the week. Like, just make a decision. Jesus. So that's encouraging. The big news that I'll be following throughout the year is my Heisman watch, of course, with Kenneth Walker III. He's now the leading rusher in the country with 493 total yards, rushing yards. He had 189 all-purpose yards and a touchdown against Miami, just running roughshod over them. And I thought maybe that was just the game 1 against Northwestern. Maybe it was Northwestern's defense is a little depleted after losing so many players from last year's squad. He only played he only had 8 carries, I think, in week 2 against Youngstown State, 57 yards, still a good average, but he unloaded on Miami, which again, Miami's defense might not be everything we thought they might be, but he's putting up massive numbers against some at least a little bit legit teams. He's 70 yards ahead in the rushing total yardage in the nation, which is pretty impressive. He's got 5 touchdowns. I think the leaders in touchdowns in NCAA are around 7. So he's not leading that necessarily, but as long as he keeps leading rushing yards, he's gonna get his name up there in the Heisman voting if he can continue this. They are taking on Nebraska this Saturday night. They changed after the victory in Miami. They announced they were changing it from a Saturday afternoon game to a night game. I believe ESPN, I'm sure television had something to do with that. Nebraska has been a thorn in Michigan State's side in recent years. So I'm a little nervous about that. I like that it's at Spartan Stadium. They are striping out the stadium. Every other section is going to be green and white. Everyone's going to, I guess they're going to hand out t-shirts or make sure people do it or send out the word on social media to wear your green if you're in one section. So that's going to be a spectacle. So I'm looking forward to Saturday night, Michigan State. You got any thoughts?
Oh, I thought
you awake there?
Hello. I thought you had more to add there. I did watch a lot of that Michigan State game, and I got to say, even though the game was tight, like the entire game, I just felt like Michigan. I was waiting for Michigan State to like blow them out because I felt like they controlled the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's like
game.
It was like they just couldn't get it over that hump and get those touchdowns, and then
finally the
boom, boom,
floodgates
boom,
open.
boom.
One thing I noticed,
watching them, they look pretty legit to me right now. So
it was hot as fuck down there. It was like 90 degrees, 95% humidity, and the way that the stadium is set up, Miami is in the shade the whole game, and the opponents are baking in the sun all day. Their sideline is always in the sun. So I thought that was interesting, though. It really felt like in the fourth quarter, Michigan State was the fresher team, and Miami was beat down. That's where they gave up all those points, and the takeaways started occurring. So I really like that aspect of it, that State's conditioning and their toughness actually prevailed in hostile conditions. I think you've got to chalk that up to the bad motherfucker, Mel Tucker. Or maybe I'm just going to shorten it to Bad Mother Tucker. I think bad that's mother. I tried to get that hashtag going this weekend on Twitter.
It didn't work.
It started to a little bit.
I did.
Making a t-shirt. It's available at limpditkas.com, the Bad Mother Tucker. So yeah, it was a fun to watch.
Are you excited that State broke into the top 20 with that win over Miami?
I am. Again, I think our stance is the ranking system is bullshit until much later into the season. And you and I had a little offline discussion about when we're going to start our LDP top 6. I think I want to call it, I'm changing that this year to the Limp 6, I think. Where we have our own like college football playoff committee meetings where you and I decide who the top 6 teams are in the country and who will be going to the playoff. I think they've made the right decision, at least with that committee. They don't start doing those rankings until like week 8, I believe. Right. It is. So they kind of, because it'd be ridiculous to start now. So I think you and I should follow suit and hold off on doing our own rankings to not be hypocrites. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. State's number 20 in the AP and 21 in the coaches, I think you said.
Yeah, great. 20 in the AP.
That's actually higher than I thought because they beat Miami was 24, and I thought that might creep State into the top 25, but I didn't think 20 or 21. So whatever. I mean, they're getting recognition. I think it's ultimately meaningless and they just have to keep winning games, but it's cool if people want to say we're good. Nice.
You good. Well, if you're done with State, I will talk about some Notre Dame football where I'm feeling a little bit better about Notre Dame this week. We got a much needed double-digit victory.
Over the Purdue Boilermakers.
The Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue came in averaging 39.5 points per game. They left with 13 points under their belt. So to say that the defense improved slightly would be, and I'll just say slightly, they definitely did. They held that offense in check. It had been scoring a lot over subpar opponents, but so were Toledo and Florida State were not exactly top dog opponents, and they couldn't stop them. So
Yeah.
that to me, that's just a positive swing. The offense had its ups and downs, but still somehow managed 27 points. So it wasn't really like, I mean, it was 20-13. Maybe like 6 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go in the fourth, and then
I think that's the part I saw.
Notre Dame got a big run and 51-yard run, and that was the other thing. The running game seemed to get off the ground this week too, so everything's trending in the right direction. This weekend's the big test, the first big test of the year. They travel to Wisconsin. They're 5.5-point underdogs. Wisconsin is ranked 18 in the nation, so it's their first meeting with a ranked opponent this season. So we'll see how that goes, and that will also help to clear or muddy the Big Ten in the top 25 picture, as 6 teams of the Big Ten are now in the top 25.
Well, again, I don't pay too much attention to early season rankings, but yeah, it's interesting. There's that many, but I think
it affects things throughout the entire year, and that's the biggest issue with it.
Well, it can, but we're choosing not to, and the playoff committee can choose not to. Also, they can just look at what teams have done this year, not basing things on what early season rankings or preseason rankings were. So that's why I'm taking this fucking stance, and I think the playoff committee can choose to do the same thing as well. So
they never seem to, though.
Yeah, we can get into that debate, but I think you glossed over the biggest story of the Notre Dame Purdue game this weekend.
The Shillelagh Trophy?
No, the refusal of Notre Dame to allow the world's biggest drum into their stadium. The infamous Purdue world's largest drum. I've actually been to Purdue. I went to a Michigan State Purdue game in the late 90s, I think, with Kanopik and Tanner and everybody else. But we were walking into the stadium and saw the drum, and Kanopik just sarcastically, "That's not the world's largest drum." And of course, we were obnoxiously accosted by some rando Purdue fan. Well, actually, it is the world's largest drum. Like, are you serious? Like, who gives a fuck anyway? But I've never heard so much talk about a goddamn musical instrument. But for some reason, suddenly Notre Dame cannot accommodate the world's largest drum. Their hallway was, the visitors' entryway tunnel was too small, which made me think, I didn't realize Notre Dame's vagina was so small.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was strange.
It's been a few years since Purdue's played there, and there's been renovations to the stadium.
They shrunk their vagina, so you couldn't accommodate there's no other way to get the world's largest drum in there.
Well, there's a visitor's entrance, and they can use it, not the home entrance. So sorry, guys.
I thought it seemed a little petty and kind of ridiculous, but I think that may have thrown the Boilermakers off. They could not have their mascot.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they depend on the giant drum, the world's largest drum, to win football games, then they've got some other
Careful,
issues.
buddy. World's largest drum. Get it right.
Yeah. God, Kanopik. Probably regretted saying that after
it's come up for 20 years since.
Okay, we get it. It was just a joke, man.
So did they fail to bring the drum even because they knew they were not going to fit it through the tunnel, or did they bring it and pound it outside? You could just hear it. They left it outside.
Yeah, they showed, and I didn't get an explanation. It was like they were going to half, or there's the world's largest drum outside of Notre Dame Stadium. And I kind of
you didn't know the story?
Yeah, I didn't know the story. And for like a second, I was just like, oh, why is it outside? But then I was just like, whatever. I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, whatever. Stupid anyway.
Well, I thought that was too juicy not to bring up on the podcast.
They took away their superpowers.
What can you do without why do they have the world's largest drum? What does that matter? Why?
Well, it sounds
they're an engineering school, so are they like showing their engineering prowess that they were able to assemble such a huge drum that no one else in the world could possibly surmount? Well, congratulations to Purdue. You still have the world's largest drum. Unfortunately, it didn't fit into your tiny stadium. you mentioned the Big Ten a little bit in the overall college rankings. It was an interesting weekend for the Big Ten. Mainly we had the biggest game of the weekend really was Penn State as Auburn finally, and it's an SEC team actually traveled to the north for once into a hostile environment. Mind you, they did it in beautiful weather. They would never do this in October, November, or December. Penn State actually prevailed, but there was some very strange referee calls. And the strangest thing was that an SEC refereeing crew was called to do this game between a Big Ten school and an SEC school. I thought in cross conference games, I thought they always picked a neutral conference refereeing crew. It's like they could have got the ACC or the Pac-12 or somebody, but they picked an SEC. Have you heard of that before?
That happens all the time. It always happens to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, whenever they play, I mean, I get ACC because they're technically like,
well, Notre Dame can fuck off with
the redheaded
join a conference
of ACC, but when they play Alabama, it's always an SEC crew, and I'm always like, well, that's not really fair.
When did you play Alabama?
Well, the SEC crew was in the college playoff.
Oh, that's interesting. But well, that'd be one thing if it happened and there was no controversy or whatever. But the SEC crew screwed Penn State out of an actual down. They created a 4th down situation. It was actually 3rd down, and forced Penn State to punt on 3rd down, essentially. So there are a couple other weird calls in that. So it's one thing if you get the SEC there and they, just do their fucking job, but to rob Penn State of a down is just egregious. It can't happen anymore. It's fucking ridiculous. The SEC has a nefarious reputation to begin with. So it just leads to weird speculation. And then when weird shit happens, it's like, what the fuck's going on here? Is this a legit sport or not? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So that was the big thing. Not that I'm a Penn State apologist by any means. I can't stand those fuckers, but I hate more than anything the SEC. So, and potential nefarious shit going on with that. So Ohio State had a tough time with Tulsa, I believe, this weekend. So they're kind of leaving the door open into the Big Ten East division race. It looks pretty solid. Michigan State's undefeated. Michigan's undefeated. Penn State's undefeated.
Iowa's
in the West, but yeah, that's another Big Ten school that's up there. It's going to be some intense competition. So the best thing is Ohio State's already lost, not in conference play, of course, but they're not looking like the world beaters they typically are. So it's leaving that door open.
Well, I think your Big Ten school who has a chance to be in the top 4 of the playoffs kind of gets determined on October 9th when 5 Iowa plays 6 Penn State. So circle that game. That's going to go a long way in the early part of the season of deciding who could possibly be that Big Ten representative in the college football playoff. And again, with Oregon playing like they have, and they've moved up to 3 right now.
Yeah, and a soft Pac-12 schedule coming up. So
the only thing that could make things better, where you could actually have 4 conferences represented, is if Georgia or Alabama took a loss. So
Alabama's not looking like their typical juggernaut either. So there could be a lot up in the air. That's another reason we should refrain from doing our initial Limp 6, because lots of things could be shaken up in the next few weeks. I do need to point out, of course, Michigan State is undefeated for the first time since 2015. 2015, they went to the aforementioned college football playoffs. So there's a little stat of the day for you.
There you go. Whoa. Whoa, my mind is blown.
Don't take them out of the mix just yet. Mel Tucker knows what he's doing.
didn't take anyone out of the mix except for Ohio State because I don't want them in the mix.
Nice. Last little tidbit for college. Of course, I have to mention my alma mater, Central Michigan. They went to the goddamn Death Valley in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to take on the LSU Tigers of all opponents. Of course, I was flying my Central Michigan flag out front with zero hope that they had any hope against the LSU Tigers. Ed Orgeron, that swamp creature that he is. They lost 49-21, but I thought it was pretty remarkable that they even scored 21 points against an SEC opponent in Death Valley. They actually had a pick six for 6 of those 21 points. So I was impressed with my Chippewas. Nice showing. That I love that they've scheduled 2 SEC opponents already this season. They lost to Missouri Tigers and they just lost to the LSU Tigers. So I love that they're playing tough opponents on the road. I don't know. I didn't see if that means it's a home and home. Can you imagine if LSU had to go up to Mount Pleasant, Michigan to face the Chippewas next year at Kelly Short Stadium? I'm hoping that might be in the works, but somehow I doubt it. But I love they're doing that. It just makes it a little interesting, and they didn't embarrass themselves against elite competition. So fire up
there
chips.
You go.
Well, that's all I've got for this week, unless you had any other college or pro thoughts.
No. Don't
all
forget,
right.
take Atlanta Falcons this week, folks.
You're kind of petering out there. You all right there?
Take your Atlanta Falcons
We're
this
losing.
week, everybody.
Quaaludes kicking in over there?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, my drugs are in full force.
All right. Well, with that, we should wrap this one up. We are the Limp Ditkas podcast. You can find us at limpditkas.com. You can find our podcast anywhere you'd like to find podcasts. You can catch us on social media at Limp Ditkas. So go do all that. Sorry. Rate, subscribe, review, do it. With that, I'm going to say this is Daga time. We out. Peace.
Peace.